guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. We are happy to have one of our favorite co hosts, Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza podcast. He is a two-time nominee for Best African Diasporan Podcast, and he is from the Republic of Kenya. He has also been a presenter at the Afros Audio Podcast Festival discussing Pan-Africanism, and he is an ambassador for the 2024 Afros and Audio Podcast Festival. Hey, Sambaza, welcome.
Hey Jen, I'm here. How you doing today?
How's it? Pretty good, pretty good. I'm looking forward to today's show as we round out the month discussing really great topics concerning mental health and so on. Um, yeah, thoughts about today's show?
Oh, this is going to be a great show, and at least as the month is going, or as the year is going on, I guess the programming is becoming better and better, and I'm enjoying myself with the programming and the stories that we have to tell. Today's story is going to be awesome. Like I said, always awesome.
For sure, definitely. I appreciate you saying that. And today we have a special guest for you guys. We appreciate you tuning in to the content. Our next guest is a fellow content creator. You know, we love to sit down and chop it up with fellow content creators and is a podcaster as well. He is host and creator of the Brian Colletto show, where he shares about life and experiences as a person who is on the spectrum. So we will bring in our friend Brian. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today. Brian brings a unique perspective on his show about living with autism. And so definitely wanted to highlight the importance in just have that conversation about living with neurodiversity in our communities. Fun fact is that we came to know Brian in the empowered podcasting community on the good old Clubhouse app. So, yeah, shout out to our friends over there in the empowered podcast. You I think we see you just you're there just as often as we are, Brian. You enjoy the empowered podcasting, right?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I can't always contribute to the conversation,
Hmm.
but I do enjoy listening in.
For
Hmm.
sure, definitely. I feel like you can always, I'm usually getting ready for work. And so I'm, multitasking or what have you, but I feel like I always catch something that, oh, wow, that is helpful in, the journey as being a content creator and podcaster. And then, we've kind of definitely found some friends along the way for sure, being a part of the room. So I'm glad that we were able to connect with you there, and you're going to share we've had a couple episodes about autism already, and so I've heard you share, and I just thought it'd be a great opportunity to just share that with the community more, and let people know what you go through. I did want to start with a definition, and this is just from Wikipedia. Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability caused by differences in the brain. People with ADS often have problems with social communication and interaction and restricted or repetitive behaviors. And so, but essentially, people just have a different way of learning and communicating. And so I wanted to share that. So we'll bring Sambaza into the conversation.
Oh, okay. Hey, Brian, my question is, and we have been looking forward to talking to you about your personal journey in autism. Can you share with us when you initially got the diagnosis and how you dealt with it?
Sure, I was diagnosed when I was 4, although I didn't know the term until I was almost 16.
Mhm.
Um, I was always told I learned differently, and then I happened to see the term on a form that my mother was filling out for a band trip, and that's when I found out about the term. And it took me a while to learn what it really is, but it all made sense. And for a long time, I struggled to figure out where I fit um, in the groups, and where I could be of value for
Mhm.
people.
Okay. It's interesting you said you saw it on a form. Did that make you feel a particular way, or did, you know?
Um, well, I the only thing I remember from that time was when my mom said it's okay. That's
Mhm.
the only thing I remember. Um,
Okay.
And
Yeah.
did you go like to a different like a different school, or you just studied with the same class with the same individuals along your journey till you're 16?
so the only school that was different was elementary school, and that was because the closest one to me didn't have special education at the time, so I went to the second closest one. Otherwise, middle school and high school were pretty much the same public schools that everybody else in my area went to.
Okay.
And I did have a lot of smaller classes, although I did go into mainstream math for good in middle school because I really excelled with numbers.
Mhm.
Oh,
Okay. Good.
was that your best subject, math?
Yeah, math was my best subject.
Okay.
English was my worst.
Really? I see. I love English. I
Yeah.
always gravitated towards English.
Okay. And what about the interactions outside when you were in class or in the playground? How were those interactions with your friends? And I mean your classmates.
Right. I think most of the time it was I it was either okay, or there there definitely was a lot of exclusion
Mhm.
from things. And then there were times where people got me to do um, bad action things just for their pleasure. Um,
Well,
so, but I mean, I've grown from all of that,
Mhm.
and I don't really think too hard back on those days.
I understand that for sure. So, for our listeners who may not know, and this is part of what you share in your content. So, this is something that, and I've seen a couple of episodes of the show, and you are definitely in your zone. And so, I just love that you share in that way how autism impacts your daily routine and your social interactions, just like from your point of view. Um, you can share with us if you would.
Sure. So at this time in my life, autism usually doesn't impact my routine too much in a negative way. Um, I I think that any energy struggles that I have is probably the same as everybody else.
Hmm.
Um, it's the only thing is that may be impacted is my ability to um, go to a function like a networking event, especially if it's a little bit further away, um,
Okay.
because the traffic in New Jersey is not the greatest.
Okay.
There, there's a lot of bumper to bumper traffic going to the event. Coming home is fine when
Yeah.
everybody else is home, but it's going there that is the greatest challenge.
Okay. Now you
Is it
mentioned the networking events. That's something that you're pretty interested in. Is that right? I know you've mentioned it before on the show.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I
Sambaza?
was trying to figure out this when you say that going to the events are a problem. You consider traffic being the issue. Is it your sense of wanting to be there on time and not be late for the event? Because there's that anticipation about being somewhere. Do you find that being the issue? Because when you're going home, you really don't worry about getting back home because there's no rush. You're done with
Hmm.
the function and everything else. Is that the reason why you kind of don't like the traffic when you're getting to a location?
Well, I wouldn't say so much about getting there on time or late, although there have been occasions where maybe I don't get there as soon as I would like to get there. Um, the I think it's just because of the the amount of energy that it takes to get through all of that traffic, and especially if it's as far away as like more than a half hour,
Hmm.
a lot of times too, I'm tempted to just crash at home
Yeah,
when it's all over. So that's really what it is. It's a combination of the traffic going there just because of how it is, and then the amount of energy for something that may be more than 30 minutes away, maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
that's true.
Okay.
I can appreciate that, or I can understand that too. I mean, being sitting in traffic is definitely stressful. I mean, alone. So, I certainly can understand that. Sambaza?
I have a question regarding your daily routine. Um, and Brian, this comes from a space where I don't know. Um, I have, to be honest with you, I do have a nephew who is on the spectrum, and I'm envisioning him growing up to be someday like you. Um, what's the routine like? Like when you wake up in the morning, you have a specified routine, or is just like a normal? Um, it's like my normal routine. Now, again, I have to rephrase this question. I don't know how to rephrase this question, but I ask of it. Do you have any special routine, or is just like there's nothing?
Right. So usually on the weekdays, my routine is I usually get out of bed, I'll use the restroom, I'll usually uh, make lunch, then get dressed, and then head downstairs to the room I'm in now and um, relax a little bit, pop on Clubhouse, maybe check in a little bit on social media, and then I'll have my breakfast and then clean my teeth and then go to my regular job.
Okay, okay, and then just the normal because it is um what I'm trying to. So I don't know if I'm going to say this and again I say this with um this young man growing up, right? And I want him to, if he ever comes to look into this someday and he sees this conversation, he probably knows that there's something he can do. And you are actually showing them that it's you can have or just I don't want to say normal because stone guys said there's nothing different. he just needs to know that he is a person, and he can live in this world and move around just like anyone else. And that's the reason why I ask kind of the questions, and I don't know how to phrase them. That's where my problem comes in. And I, I guess ignorance and not knowing a lot. And this is why we're here. I'm trying to learn from you. So, pardon me if my questions do sound kind of weird, and but they come from a place of just wanting to know. Okay.
Okay. Well, it's amazing. I think Brian, what he just shared with getting ready in the morning, jumping on Clubhouse social media is pretty similar to like what my morning is. And I
Right.
think Stone G, our prior guest, we had a guest on who shared about his experience living on the spectrum. And, it is, it's really not that much different. It's like your learning is different. That's why we wanted to just have a conversation. But like, I think you said it right there. What you do in the morning is pretty much what we all do, So it's just maybe some comprehension type of things or something like that. Yes, I think, and I'm glad you said that because that's pretty, close to what I do in the morning. So um that kind of drove it home with Sambaza's share. And thank you for being, there was no ill intention with what Sambaza asked, but I think your answer, informed us that we're more the same than different in some ways, for sure. So,
And Brian, I have this other question that I wanted to ask regarding sensory overload. Do you ever experience that at any time, and what may cause it?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely experience sensory overload. What causes it? There's a few things that could cause it. Number one, I'm part of many different groups, and I'm always checking schedules. So when there's a lot of stuff planned in a specific week, it can be a bit overwhelming. Or if stuff is being thrown at like crazy at work or at
mhm.
home for that matter, um, there can be a sensory overload for sure.
And how do you get around it?
Well, if I'm just in my own space, then I usually will plan things out in my head or just talk it out with God. Sometimes it's impossible to get around it. Um, that there is once in a while where I just uh, basically give the signal that it's too much or something in one way or another.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
And then what are some other challenges that you have found yourself having to navigate and overcome um, with as like you said, you've kind of been dealing with this all of your life and were aware of it and so on. And so you have, of course, come to navigate and deal with things regarding the condition. So, share with us some additional challenges that you found yourself having to navigate. Um, whether it's, straying away from your schedule or just things that kind of throw you off.
Okay, so let's see how I can break this down with other things that I've had to navigate.
Hmm.
Well, I've navigated going to a church on my own.
Hmm.
This was before COVID, um, but I did that when I used to be part of a faith based young adult group that's no longer running, and that was my true start to building community. And I went from growing up at a childhood church that was very small to going to somewhere where it was very big with a lot of people. And I've also, at times, and again, before COVID, there were times at church where I had to navigate people who may not have understood my intentions completely. And not that not that I'm absolved of my responsibilities, meaning that there were definitely things that I take responsibility for that I made um, mistakes on, some huger than others. Um, but but I navigated through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and how did COVID affect you before COVID and right within the pandemic? How did you get through it?
Well, before COVID, there wasn't really any inkling. It was kind of just a trajectory forward.
Mhm.
There, the young adult group stuff started to die down in like a year and a half before COVID hit. So I got more into networking and street fairs, and it was good that I did, because when COVID hit, the church groups had not had a lot of traction, the ones that I was still a part of, the smaller young adult groups.
Mhm.
And it was the networking groups and also my Rotary Club that was how I was able to stay connected virtually. It wasn't so much church, although there was a young adult group I met virtually in the early days of the pandemic. But the networking was really what propelled me forward. Although I didn't feel comfortable at first with Zoom calls where I was speaking to people outside of New Jersey, but then Clubhouse squashed those fears, because 2021 on Clubhouse was like a cocktail party that never ended. So um, it's a long story, but I I navigated a bunch of Clubhouse rooms and hopping around and making all these new connections.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, we frequent Clubhouse a little bit too. More so during that time. And like I said, we really are not that much different. You know, we were definitely hanging out pretty heavy back then. And I still, get a little anxiety, being up on the stage, especially in really big rooms and things like that, because I'm just kind of a introvert type of person. But once you find, like, you have an opportunity to speak and you feel comfortable, it is nice to share with other folks.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Definitely.
And
yeah.
when you come into spaces like those, how long does it take you to express yourself? Like Empowered Podcasting, we're part of the same community, and when you come up on stage, it's like you are one of us, and we always want to hear you speak on something. I mean, every day you do contribute. Well, pretty much a lot of times you do contribute a lot of information that we do appreciate. Um, when you're in a strange group of people, how long does it take you to get acclimated to them or acclimated to them? and be comfortable to be able to speak? Like you say, you go to the street fairs or you go to conferences. How is your interaction?
Well, with Clubhouse, it's usually very quick. Um,
Mhm.
I I got comfortable very quickly with 2021, although it took a few months before I had my big break. But there was this club that has not been running for over 2 years now, called The Real Ones,
Mhm.
and the host of uh, that space had a trigger finger, so they would invite everybody up, and that was when I started to just want to contribute very quickly. Now, there were some spaces where I had to feel out people a little bit more. And then there are other spaces where the opportunity sometimes didn't come for a while, which was sometimes a bit frustrating for me because I wanted to contribute right away. And also because I don't live on my own, I live with my parents. So
Mhm.
I uh, I couldn't just, you know, be backed out away from everybody all the time. Although I do enjoy it that, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And what kind of things do you like on Clubhouse? The groups that you'd go to, or what you would listen to, or what you participate in. Could you share with us some of the events you'd go into and kind of hang out with?
Well, besides empowered podcasting, there there are a lot of groups that are no longer running. I mentioned the real ones. There were also groups that talked about reels that no longer run, but that was what propelled me into doing reels and getting on
Mm.
video. Um, there were mental health and meditative spaces that no longer run, um, but there are some groups that still run on there that I like. Like, there's a daily gratitude movement that I like. There's um, a Get Up and Grow club that I like. Um, it well, it's hard to think of some of the spaces. I like
Right.
voices in podcasting as well. Um, I don't get to go in Breakfast with Champions a lot, but I do like that group. It's just my opportunities to contribute with them are very slim.
Okay.
Um, there was a Speakers Society club that is no longer running on Clubhouse right now, that I used to go into as well. So there's also a once in a while I'll go into Wellness Warrior, which is a proud, grateful, desire, self love practice. But it's hard for me to come up with something interesting every day because um, I don't always experience massive changes from one day to the next.
Oh, okay.
So and it could just be, my autism, and it could just be me always looking for um, something extremely interesting of a win, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Sure.
Okay.
What about off the app? Like outside, when you go, like we say, we're outside, right? In the summertime. What are
Yeah.
you anticipating on doing, or where would you want to go with the fairs and possibly to exhibitions? Do you have any in mind that you want to visit? First of all, what do you like visiting, and then which ones do you want to go to?
Well, uh, I like visiting street fairs locally that uh, have car shows, maybe some bands performing. I like the vendors as well. So um, I I usually like a few of the street fairs that are north of me, but also I have been expanding where I can drive to over the last few years as I've worked on taking New Jersey virtual to New Jersey real life with the people that live here and maybe a few people that are not in the state that are visiting. So,
Okay. And Samaza, you want to address the comments? I just saw them pop through here.
Right, right, right. So we got Empowered Podcasting, Empowered Team in the house. Hi Brian, hi Jen, hi Sambaza. That's Paula who's shouting out to you.
Yeah.
hi,
Hey,
And
Paula.
Paula.
and we do
And
have Ed Campbell, and he says peace family.
all right. We appreciate you guys for engaging with us in the chat. Shout out to the chat.
And
All right.
do you have any others like special apps that you use um to, let's say, communicate or do some daily tasks?
Well, I do use LinkedIn for LinkedIn audio.
Okay.
That is another app that I use. I also once in a while check in with Noom Vibe, which used to be known as Wisdom, but they Wisdom uh,
Mm,
merged with the Noom Vibe to become Noom Vibe, um, where there's more of an emphasis on health coaches on that social audio app. And that was actually where I started, quote unquote, podcasting, was on that Noom Vibe when it was known as Wisdom.
mm-hmm.
And and then I got away from that. Um, Although I still answer questions on Noom Vibe, but I don't host shows on there at this point. I had moved over to Fireside for over a year until
Mm-hmm.
Fireside decided to become a celebrity platform,
Mm-hmm.
and they stripped myself and other people of creator tools. And that was when I moved to YouTube exclusively, since most of my Fireside shows had streamed to my YouTube channel anyway.
Okay.
So, uh, but yeah, I deleted the Fireside app at this point because I can't get any value out of it. I had also deleted Breakout as well because, as with all due respect to both of them, with Breakout, I felt like it just flamed out quickly for me with that
Mm-hmm.
app.
Yeah, I actually jumped on there for a bit too. And it was like literally you would go and it would be maybe one person or no people in a room. And sometimes the creator, because he would, be basically trying to drum up, engagement. And sometimes he'll be on Clubhouse talking about it too. So, yeah.
And I want to talk about your shorts because I've been watching them and they have been
Yeah.
really, really fun. So, how do you decide which short you want to go in? Because I know you've gone with some with themes like for um, Autism Appreciation Month. There was the one for what's this, St. Patrick's Day, but you have
Okay.
others, a bunch of others. So, how do you come up with those videos or shorts?
Well, some of them are influenced by sounds, although I have somewhat gotten away from trending sounds because of sometimes being flagged, and especially
Mhm.
on TikTok when they started muting a bunch of videos, but also to some extent or a very small extent with Facebook and Instagram. Uh, but in terms of the autism, sometimes it's influenced by something I'm going through, something I saw, or maybe I'm just feeling a specific song, or maybe I can change lyrics to a well known song to make it autism themed. And
Okay.
sometimes it's just a message to speak. And then in terms of themes like St. Patrick's Day, it's either a holiday or maybe a national day that I'm somewhat passionate about. Um,
Hmm.
so
Okay. And
That's
we got to talk about these dancing moves because hey, you on point with them dancing moves. Okay.
yeah. Paula mentioned that in the comments here.
So tell us about it. How do you get into the dancing moves? Is it you just get on the vibe, right? Or you follow a trend and then see how they dance, or how do you how do you get around it?
I don't do as much of following a trend
Hmm.
as maybe I should. I have done something like that before,
Hmm.
um, but sometimes it's just how I feel the song.
Okay.
I was better at doing this in 2021 and 2022 when the reels were the big thing, and
Hmm.
also when I was a lot leaner too. I'm I'm about 50 pounds heavier now than I was at the end of 2022, 2023. Um,
Okay.
some it's hard to explain um, why that has happened, um, but you know, it could just be part of getting older, um,
Yeah,
or it could just be the way that the body is changing. That I don't know, but um, I mean, I never stopped working out, but um, sometimes it's just adjustments have to be made. So
So
definitely.
Brian, if you're in my country in Kenya, um, well, my where I was born, they would say that is having money. So you must be making some good money somewhere.
Oh Lord.
uh, and
That's pretty funny.
Paula says she can't wait to dance with you one day. So get ready, get your dancing shoes ready.
I appreciate that, Paula. If you make it to New Jersey, definitely contact me.
All right. Thank you to Paula, who was a prior guest on the show. We appreciate her for sure. And we were talking about the reels that you make and things like that. What apps do because you've kind of perfected the editing process and all of that. Is there any special tips or apps that you like to use for your editing and content creation?
I don't really use special apps all that much.
Okay.
There's one app that I use, but that's like once in a blue moon. Most of my work is done either on Instagram or TikTok.
Okay. I mean, they have their own editing, suite right in the app. So I don't like using the TikTok one though. Personally, I like to, make the reel over on, if it's CapCut or InShot or wherever, and then bring it over just so that like I can, play with it and speed it up, slow it down, or which I think they let you do that on there, but I just like to bring it over. So, yeah.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of editing stuff on TikTok, particularly the ones where I was using my actual voice.
Hmm.
But I have been doing more of that on Instagram lately for reasons involving uh, not that I totally see it happening at this point, but the the threats of banning TikTok in the
Mhm.
U.S. has really um, prompted me to want to do more editings through Instagram. And there are things that I really
Mhm.
do like, where the where you could get more of a surprise at what the next word is coming up, whereas on TikTok it just shows you the next line. Um,
Okay.
so, um, but I do like being able to cut out noise. So there's a feature that I do for that. Um, there are color changes, font changes that I can do on Instagram. Um, and I also go through a process of copying the link uh, and taking the watermark off, and then
Oh.
downloading the video to my phone. And I usually take a screenshot of what I wrote with the post, and then I copy and paste it. Although usually I have to edit it again because in the copy and paste they take out the emojis. So then I
Yes.
have to put in the emojis again. Um, but it can take about up to 10 minutes to post on all the different platforms, just because I post videos on 7 different platforms. That's why I
Mhm.
never got on Threads last year, because I didn't really need it. Um, I already have
Oh.
Yeah, I have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, uh, TikTok, um, YouTube, Clapper, and Twitter, now known as X.
Okay, so I think I tried to find you on Threads. I'm actually on Clapper still too. I know a lot of people are like, "What is that?" I tried to find you, Sabasa. You never signed up for it.
Now I'm
So
fatigued.
I still put I try to, like, put it up over here, put it up over there, and put it up everywhere. Even fan base. You're not on there either, Sabaza. So yeah, I love that. Okay, so
Is
you're
it
not
mostly
on
maybe?
Threads.
No.
What?
So, Brian, which one have you found most engagement in?
Well, let's put it this way.
Mhm.
Where I've found the most engagement has changed over time. It
Mhm.
used to be on Instagram, and now I feel like that there's more engagement on LinkedIn. Uh, Usually, my other kinds of posts do better on my Facebook page than the reels do. Um, uh, TikTok is usually between 200 to 400 views on my posts on there.
Okay,
Uh,
that's
That's
I've
good.
had
nice.
a few really big hits on Clapper. Um, I don't get into uh, sending my videos in DM engagement chats that much. I did get into that craze in my first days on Clapper last year, and there was a little bit of time where I did some of that on Instagram, but then when I had gotten hacked in
Oh
March
no.
2022, and then I did get my account back 2 weeks later, but they I was deleted from those engagement group chats on Instagram after I'd gotten hacked, um, because the hacker was sending messages to everybody. Um, and but it was okay because I was still getting a lot of views when I got back in 2022, and also it was becoming very hard to keep up with everybody on
Mhm.
Instagram, because Instagram just became so saturated Whereas they used to be such a simple platform, they've made so many options that it's impossible for people to keep up with everyone on there,
Right.
uh, because of all the different kinds of content that people post on there, from YouTube like videos to the short form reels, and it's like I can't keep up with everybody like I used to. It's not a
Hmm.
simple scroll down.
And Brian, I do notice that you are very, um, you remember a lot of stuff. Like you knew March 2022 is when your account got hacked. Does that happen often with you? Like when you were on dates and stuff like that? You said you were great with math. That one, yeah. Uh, is us also with remembering stuff like when you say events in your in the time of your life?
Yes, yes, I usually do. If not the exact date, then
Mhm.
definitely the month in which I did things. I don't get crazy into sharing memories on um, social media for so many different reasons, but I do look back at them, um, and yeah, I mean I have dates of certain things that have happened in my father's life as well, um, that are on there.
Mhm.
Um, I don't usually look back on memories of my Instagram stories though, because I tend to go on rants on my Instagram stories, whether it's things that didn't go well on Clubhouse, or something going on at home, like if my uh, mom and I are having a disagreement, or I've had a breakdown, and um, it just doesn't feel right, what's going on, um, then I'll voice that out.
Okay. All right. Well, we shall go to the comments here. I see Paul has given us a lot of comments. He was talking about he makes her videos on Instagram, and sometimes he will implement it either CapCut, InShot, or TikTok. Oh, and Soda made a penny today from clappers.
I don't think. Oh, I think I did put $1 where I can send other people coins or something like that. So I don't think I made any money. I have to check mine.
And then
Let's see. She
said
says,
amazing things about fan base.
okay.
And then Ed is
And
asking, what is what's the question on the floor? Well, Ed, we are just having conversation here with Brian Colletto and just chopping it up regarding um, his life and trying to find out more about being on the spectrum and autism and all that. So that's the question we're having. We're just trying to get to know more about Brian, and Brian is also letting us in on his side of the story. So that's what's the question.
right. And Brian's a content creator. I mean, what we're finding is that although Brian has autism, his, journey is not too much different than some of the things that we experience. But I do want, and you share in your content, Brian, about having autism and things that you feel that are not right, or being slighted and things like that. So I definitely want to let you have the floor and share about something that you feel is not right about, or something that maybe you struggle with, or you would like something done, or you wish things are different, perhaps is a better way to say it.
Yeah. Well, for one, I would like to have a little more independence. Um, I would like to be able to get on stages, uh, and in-person stages, that is, to
Okay.
speak, and to take more of the virtual world or Clubhouse to real life. Um, I would like there to be a more simpler system and one that can make more easy changes for individuals on the spectrum, uh, perhaps those that um, get the aid of Social Security or ABLE accounts to be able to, um, if they don't need it, to be able to easily get in touch and be able to get off of that and then be able to get back on if
Okay.
they need to get back on. Um, Something along those lines. Because right now, I feel like the system is uh, very complicated as it relates to that. Um, I mean, I've had some similar experiences um, because I had certain things that I won't get into on here that were put in place before before community and networking really became a thing for me,
Hmm.
and so I battled through all of that um, with um, how much I earn and wanting to eventually not have those limits, um, and to know that I'm making a huge difference, that I'm not just accepting a part-time job and then accepting government help
Okay.
outside of that job. Um, so you know, I mean, maybe it's a harder road I go down and things like that. Um, I mean, I've gone down hard roads before at
Hmm.
home. Um, I I had a conflict that got out of control a bit last weekend with my mother
Okay.
that um, is resolved now, um, and really it came down to I should have just done research myself and I could have avoided any conflict on my end and her end with it. But you know, such is life, I guess. When it all of a sudden got really hot
Okay.
in New Jersey, so uh, but we live and learn, um, and
That's
you
for
know,
sure.
I like the
That
way
is for sure.
you think, you live and learn, and on all your shorts, there's a particular message that you send out like a call to action. Would you mind telling us and what that means to you?
um, well, I don't specifically focus on CTAs um, too much in terms of asking questions. Um, but for me, it's um, just seeing where it lands with people. You know, I don't pay people to comment or ask people to comment or anything like that. They usually just do it. Um,
Hmm.
you know, I mean, part of it, I think part of the whole question weakness is because I often feel like I am getting questions at home that I don't like or that I feel are unnecessary.
Okay.
So that's why um, that's a weakness of mine, I think.
Because you do have this quote. You always say love, blessing, and something at the end of your videos and your shorts. That's what I was referring to. You challenge us to love and give blessing to others. That's what I was referring to when I said the call of action. Um, it's very beautiful. I think it touched my heart when I listened to it a couple of times, and that's what I was referencing today. And I do appreciate that. It's very comforting and
Okay.
resonates well.
Oh yes, So I can explain that as well. So the phrase love, light, and blessings actually comes from another influencer that I follow, that I first met on Wisdom, now
Hmm,
known as Noon Vibe. Um, but I mean, I don't say it exactly the way she says it, but I I I say it in my own way. But the reason behind that is because during the pandemic, I missed hugging people, and also I was I long for human touch with the people that I've only met virtually. Now some of them did drop off a bit. Um, there were a few that maybe went separate ways from me, but the majority of them didn't completely go separate ways. I mean, I get it that sometimes people take breaks or they just can only consume so much, um, but for me, it was sort of validating, as if maybe you're not here physically, but I feel you by me. So,
mhm.
so that's how I do that, and also because um, there are people going through a lot of stuff, and we
Definitely.
know that the rates of people doing harm are high.
Mhm.
So, um, so that's really what it is. It's more like to um, save lives, and that's why there are certain terms I don't use. Like I don't. I usually refrain from using the term loved ones because I feel like it's limiting, and we should all love each other, not just immediate family or extended family, you name it, but chosen family as well.
Okay. And so we appreciate Brian sharing with us, and we want to be respectful of his time. And definitely wanted to share more about your podcast before we conclude our conversation. Now, the show is the Brian Colletto Show. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, it looks more like a TV talk show name. Uh, I did it that way because I'm partially because I'm fascinated by celebrities who do their own talk shows.
Yeah.
Um, and another part of it is because I didn't know if I was going to have a true theme for the podcast. Um, I do usually have my autism segment, that's for sure, and then I usually go into things that have been going on with me since the last show, and I usually do my show on Monday nights, usually around 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
Although I didn't do this past week because of Memorial Day, and also because I had to process the conflict I was referencing earlier.
Okay.
So, sometimes these things that may make me a little bit emotional for a while, um, it I can't just get on camera and speak about it right away.
Right.
I could type it out, but yeah, speaking it out, there's sometimes I just need to make sure I have all the details, and also that I'm not unfairly throwing uh, somebody under the bus,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Whereas, I don't mind saying if it's a person, but then saying, you know, that we got through it and that I don't want them to receive any trouble because I spoke out about it.
Right. No, that's understandable. And then how long have you been doing the podcast?
So I started out again on Wisdom in late 2021.
Oh, okay.
So I would say, in terms of on video, I've been doing on video for about 2 years. I've never broken it down into seasons. I've just broken it down into show to show. First
Mhm.
with Fireside, and then once Fireside was no longer an option, YouTube. So
Mhm.
I've been exclusively doing my podcast on YouTube for close to a year now. So I
Hmm.
think I did my first pure YouTube show last September.
Okay. Nice. Sambaza?
Well, Brian, I can say I highly commend you for the work that you've done and what you're putting into it, and being the to me being the person out there I can look up to and say, you know what, um, there's hope out there. And like I said before, I went and listened to your shorts. I I do listen from time to time, but this time I was intentional about listening to it, and the message was out there, and it was very genuine. And I
Mhm.
really appreciate you coming in and having this conversation with us and talking about it. And hey, I've had such a great time. Thank you so much.
For
Thank you so much,
sure.
Sambaza.
Definitely. We appreciate you, Brian. And we just, want you to share with us. And you've done that. So we appreciate you. And we will definitely add links to your content so that other people can check it out. I've been trying to share some of your reels on my feed so people can see what you're doing in the dance moves and all of that. Please support Brian. We always enjoy having conversations with our content creators. You're welcome here anytime. And hopefully, we will see you in the, what do they say, the clubhouse streets and the Power Podcast community very soon. So, thank you, Brian, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. All right, Simbaza. Let's see here. We will. Okay. And if you found the episode meaningful today, please consider sharing it with your friends and family, guys. Definitely have been working hard to put out great content for you. And so, with that, everyone, take care. Let's see.